been for just short of 27 years. But unlike most CA, I'm a CA by trade. It's getting hard to call myself a CPA, but I didn't do all the traditional year-end stuff, all the tax stuff. That's never been my passion. I went into industry and helped run companies, small to medium, privately held companies through the years. CFO, controller. I've managed a lot of people. I've had my hands in IT, payroll, HR, sales, marketing, you name it. I've been running businesses from every angle. I entered the QuickBooks world because I love the way that the software can transform businesses to feel bigger than they really are. So that's where my passion is, and that's what I do. I do mostly software consulting, CFO services, and things like that. So thanks for having me, Tanya.
Oh, thanks for joining, especially with no topic and coming in and knowing that this could just go anywhere. It's funny.
I knew if I wore this, that's all I needed.
If anyone's going to improv, Brad's the best.
There you go.
Exactly. Well, everybody that I've asked are like, what's the topic? It's like, no, you haven't seen enough. We don't have a topic. It's all improv. It's all open. We don't know where it's going to take us. But there's always somebody out there to ask a question and challenge us. I know a few people on here that I can always count on that.
Yeah, feel free to heckle.
Yeah. I just want to say we were talking last week about data security, and it was really interesting because I had Rewind reach out to me. I didn't know enough about them, but I've had Rewind reach out to me and talked to them, and I've now am noticing what the differences are between the two of them.
Have you been testing both?
I am going to test both of them, and what I am going to do is I'm going to try to have both of them, just like I'm doing with the financial advisory series, put them both on to do a back-to-back, because there's sometimes where one might be better suited for one purpose and maybe even use both of them. Like, I love the fact on ChronoBooks that we can back up and restore. I know you've tried that recently, Brad. And
yeah, I actually copied my file, all the history from the beginning of time, and put it into an empty shell.
Right.
It went pretty good. It was surprisingly good, but it's those little things you have to clean up, and some things don't come across. But if you think about it, it's a great way to know that you're that close. Like, the financials all look proper. It's just credits get unapplied and things like that. So if you have like an invoice with multiple payments on it, all of a sudden you've got credits all over the place and unpaid invoices. So you have to sort of go back and do a bit of cleanup. GST doesn't come very clean, things like that. But it's pretty cool that you can do that, because that's always been the challenge. If you come from the desktop world, you know you can create that backup file and you can get a pretty great restore from that backup file. So this is close. It's not quite perfect, but it's close.
Right. So
you get all your attachments too, which is super critical, obviously.
And that's cool. So with some of them, when you were saying some of the credits, so although the AR balance would possibly be zero, it would just have the unpaid invoices that you're just matching them up. So
yeah, it shows up in the AR. You look at your AR, you'll see it. Like, I had some really bizarre looking numbers that I was like, where did that come from? And then I realized, all I could do is do some applying. But,
right. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so I actually want to try that. I just signed myself up to ChronoBooks. I want to try that. And then Rewind, what I like about them is you can just restore just a couple of transactions, which is really neat. So I can see.
So if you crash a transaction, you just say, or if you make a mistake, like, basically if you say post one transaction, you can come back just one.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
It could be one. You could do a batch of them.
Like an undo. Yeah.
You can undo. That one saves budgets, whereas ChronoBooks doesn't. So I can see definitely instances where they would both be valuable, or maybe one or the other. So I want to try to get them. Megan's all for it at Rewind. And so I want to reach out to ChronoBooks and see if we can do again the same thing. It'll just be a 2-part series, but kind of have them back to back.
That's a great idea, because what you said about those tools, they're not expensive by any stretch. Of course, we get ProAdvisor benefits, but
right.
But even selling them, you don't even have to sell it. You should build that into your package to say, we'll back up your file, sort of thing, and include that. Put it in your marketing, saying it includes online file backup or continuous file backup, and you're paying $5, I think, is the ProAdvisor pricing. That's nothing.
Yeah, I think Diane was holding something up. She wants to share.
So this just came in the mail this morning.
And it's a postcard, and it says, "Are you QuickBooks Online clients? Are your QuickBooks Online clients backed up?"
And that's Rewind, probably. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're Canadian, so I can see that.
Yeah.
So my question is, on the back, it says backup 3 QBO company files for free for 6 months, saving $90 US, it says though, and email the team at Rewind to claim this. And it expires on August the 30th, 2019.
Well, 6 times 15, that's $15 a month? No.
Yeah, for 3 clients.
Oh, so it is $5 each.
Yeah.
That's what they
3 clients. So 3 QBO company files for free for 6 months would work out to be $90. So my question was just, is this good in Canada?
Well, Rewind is a Canadian company. They're out of.
So why does it say US dollars?
Because they're billing in US funds.
So many app partners do. I use Proposify. They're out of Halifax. And I said, please bill in Canadian. They said, sorry.
So it's $5 US.
Yeah. And that's what Chrono is. Chrono prices in US, and it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly the same. Most of our software is US.
Well, Receipt Bank in the beginning billed in US.
They did.
Yeah. Same with HubDoc.
But they don't anymore.
No.
Some start right in. Who did I talk to the other day? They're doing Canadian right off the get-go, and I can't remember who I talked to, and it's a newer app. And they just said, look, we want flexibility. We don't want to have that conversation. We're just going to do it.
Nice.
A bit of admin on their end, but what it really is they're going after the big dollars in the States. They're making no bones about it. The Canadian market is too small for them. They want to scale up into that bigger size. So US market, and it's just easier to have one currency. They probably have US bank accounts and all that stuff, and it's probably more, it's just easier to do it, but still kind of sucks sometimes.
Well, it's great. I'm going to take advantage of this.
Oh, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get familiar with it too, because you can play around with it a bit. And
The other softwares as well, they back up.
No, unfortunately.
Oh, I heard they do.
They do. Oh, they do.
They back up other software?
Oh, yeah.
They do. They back up Shopify. Hang on. I got a list.
That's right. They do have a whole bunch of other ones.
They've got a bunch of them. Shopify. They're, oh my gosh, what else?
It's not $5 though for all that. It's like $5 for the QBO, $5 for the Shopify, $5 for.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Yeah, but that gives you some flexibility if you have clients that use that.
Yeah.
When I transferred my file over from the ChronoBooks to my Classic, from my Classic to the QBOA 5 months ago, that whole transfer, the copy of the files, that whole thing that I was going to do, I had recorded another one on Camtasia.
Right.
So I just did another one yesterday, from a copy to another copy, just a regular file.
Right.
It went from a GST restored, GST HST, and it totally screwed up the whole thing, and I redid it. And it actually did another PST, just so you know that it just totally messed it all up.
Messed with my tax too. I'm even pondering purging that file and trying something different, because my objective was to create a good sandbox file. I'm basically going to take a lot of my data and then just anonymize a lot of it, but still have scenarios in there that I can use. But I want to be able to show someone how to do GST in a sandbox. Right. Like, I now have like 5 agencies and things like that. So
what I noticed is the 2015, 2016 stuff that got messed up, not anything newer.
Okay.
I was told that if you've converted from desktop to online and then do a chrono, that's where the problems develop.
That's exactly what happened.
And I did that. I was on desktop for a little while before I converted to the cloud, and it seemed to be the older transactions that were all messy.
That's what happened, yeah.
So that's a caveat, I guess. If you want to try that, is come from a clean QBO file. You should be all right.
Easy for me. I've never used desktop, so all
there
the files are QBO.
I was great Sage until QBO came along, right?
Right. Totally, just until QBO came along. And actually, even it's been around for what, 2012? Is that right?
2012 in Canada, yeah.
2012,
yeah, it wasn't much software. It was horrible.
Yeah, I didn't actually start using it until, gosh, I think 2 years ago now.
That's why
Okay.
they brought you down to San Jose, Diane.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Who is this
Deanna-
crazy sage lady?
Yeah, I thought for sure. I think that they were, thinking, oh wow, we'll just be able to get all of her clients, but no, some of them are still in Sage.
Well, you have to do what's right for the client, right?
Yeah, ditto for me. I was 2 years ago when they hit me, and before that I was going, no, I'm Sage 50. But I'm the same. I still have some in Sage, but a lot in QBO.
Well, you've got
I just don't see a reason to move a client just for
Just
that
because.
purpose.
Yeah.
I love starting new clients out in QBO. It's a fantastic product and all of that, but I've got clients that I've had 25 years. I'm not messing with that stuff now.
right.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
And that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
That's the
Yeah.
whole thing about this cloud space is it's different for everyone. There's
Yeah.
no way, there's no one size fits all. They all have different clients. We have different objectives. There's people that go totally exclusive. Other people mix it up. There's, like we were saying right now, there's people that are still doing desktop and cloud. There's
And a
definitely
lot of that depends on your clientele,
Yeah.
what your niche is and what you've specialized in. And
exactly.
And the demographic of your clients as well.
Yeah. And what you want out of the business. Like, frankly, sometimes people are like, I don't feel like converting it all over. Everything's working. Like you were saying, let's just keep it there. Other people are like, no, I don't want to do desktop anymore. I don't want to do paper-based. I want everything to be automated. So it really is just your mindset. And obviously, we're here today. We're on Facebook geeking out all the time about this stuff. We are cutting edge, but we represent a vast minority, I believe, of the industry. I talk to so many people out there that are still, so far behind and nervous and all those. So it's just opportunity for everyone. And I think everyone in this room is going to benefit because we understand it. We're ahead of the curve, well ahead of the curve.
And you're right, Brian. And I thought that we were not in the early adopter phase just because we've been here so long. I was one of the first
sort of thing. Yeah.
QBO in 2012. I thought for sure we were out of it. But when you look at the numbers, we are still there in the early adopter phase. It's crazy.
Working out the kinks for everybody else.
Yeah, we're getting
Exactly.
everyone in this space is, because that's what the app partners, they all use us for that. That's what they're friendly to us. They want us to break it for them.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
it's exciting. I never thought I would get excited about accounting software, and I've been able to wrap. I was on the Zoom call this morning with an old friend. He's in England, and he's like, "Brad, explain this QuickBooks online thing to me." It comes from the SAP world, which is polar opposite to where we're playing, right? Massive ERP solutions, and that's what he's been doing forever, and that's where he works now, in that space. And he just didn't understand. And then when I explained how I utilize it and how cool he's very interested. He wants to sign up because he's looking to phase out of corporate work and create his own business, but he doesn't want to do it right away. He wants to see what it's all about and play around with it and see if he can get some clients and then run with it. But it's the cloud concept that really turned him on, because SAP is partly in the cloud in many ways, but it's still this massive, server-based. Remote access is the old-fashioned way. So
Right.
You're right.
a whole new world, and it's everywhere. So you get even people that have been in that space realizing, I got to get out of this. I want to try something different, and it gives us flexibility, free accounts, free training, all that stuff. He said, "Training is free?" I said, "Why? Yeah, just sign up, take some webinars, get certified."
Well,
I found that fascinating.
Look at this financial advisory webinar series, right? The information. So I've been telling the apps, this is not a sales demo. I want, I want for us to be able to walk away at the end of it and be able to take something, get ideas from all of them. There's going to be duplication on some of them. But some of them are still going to be nice, fresh ideas for us to be able to build some really kick-ass financial advisory packages, for us to understand how to build it, for us to understand how to implement it, for us to understand how to help the clients with it. Not what we've done anything now. I'm going to try to get case studies in there, very similar to, what Hector and Jeannie talked about the other day that you posted, Brad.
That was a great talk, wasn't it? It was probably the best 30-minute conversation I've ever heard between two thought leaders.
After that, Sherry Lee Mathers called me up and she says, Tanya, she was so excited. She sounded just as excited as I did when I first found Seth David's, videos on like pricing like eons ago. That was a game changer for me. That's what helped me, create my template and do so many things and like look at what that all rolled into. So when I heard that excitement, I'm only 9 minutes into it, but I'm going to be watching it all this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it again because then they do a role play in there, which it was amazing because, Hector's so savvy and so is Jeannie, and Jeannie does stand-up comedy and she's an accomplished public speaker. So they were going through a role play where they kept in character for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And, Hector saying, so Jeannie, and they pretended they were, they played these two different roles. They were acting through it and they were asking lots of questions, and it really fleshed out how you should address the advisory discussion. And it really frames around having that conversation. And when you have that much horsepower going back and forth, it was enlightening. I learned a ton listening to those two.
Well, you know what I'm going to do?
Is that somewhere, Brad? I missed it.
I don't even remember where I found it. I put it in, I put it in Get Into It.
Okay.
But
I'm going to grab it right now.
Yeah, grab it from Hector's or wherever it comes from. I think it was on one of his Facebook groups.
Okay, I'm putting it.
A discussion with Jeannie Whitehouse.
I'm putting it into chat now, and I'm also putting it into the comments of where this is on Bookkeeper's Corner, so that way anybody.
Alternate Accountant. That's one of his groups. That's right.
Yeah. So that's it. And Sherry Lee Mather said that's where she said put a case study because she could visualize it, and she listened to it 3 times, make some notes, turned around, built a package with some stuff that she learned in boot camp, for me. And from that, pulled everything together and sold it to somebody the next day. $500 training, $250 a month, including 3 software, 1 hour of work a month. Boom, done. And then she said in a year, she's planning on having them in a $500 a month package. And she was able to do that, implement it, and it gave her that confidence. And that's what I want for us out of the financial advisory. But going back to the training, could you imagine all of the stuff that's pulled in there if they actually do the training, the how-to, like I've asked them to? We do some case studies. What would that be worth? That's 13 weeks, 13 hours. What would somebody go out there and potentially charge and pay for a training like that? But you're right, we're getting it all free.
That'll be cool. Think about advisory right now. We hear it everywhere, right? It's almost overkill in some ways. And I look around the room when I'm in these discussions. I've just heard it a lot, and a lot of people are like, they look confused. It's like, okay, what am I advising on exactly? Yeah. So what these sessions start to do is they start to clarify how to approach it, because advisory to me is going to be different to somebody else because we all have different skill sets, different experience. It's just about taking your knowledge that goes beyond those numbers. Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Like that's what happens when you go live, right?
Exactly. But yeah, it's different to everyone. But the point of advisory is that you just got to put the traditional stuff behind you. Yeah. Let's not talk about the debits and credits. Let's talk about your business.
Yeah.
And how we're going to approach it. I saw a very interesting tool this week. Does anyone know Obed Maurice? Do you guys know Obed? He's putting together this very cool tool. It's called Click Advisor, and it's not click like click. It's click, like social. When someone's in a click,
right?
You know what I mean? You say, "Oh, that's clicky." Well, his idea of a click is really interesting because they're developing. It's almost like a workflow tool that a bookkeeper could use, that an accountant could use. I think even myself could use it in the consultant space. But what it does is it creates workflows, but there's also all these other things that you have to consider when working with your clients. So you can create all kinds of other things. He's got personal financial planning in there. He has, do you have a will? Do you have this? Do you have that? And it's all these things, and you work with the client and say, what would you like to have as part of your package sort of thing? And then it's got all these little checklists that are automated, and you have a lot of involvement with the client. And the client, he said, it's amazing how much time they spend in there building the plan that they would like to move forward with. So you think about the advisory opportunities with a tool like that allows you to put everything in one place, and the client is telling you what they want to learn and what they value. It's a pretty cool tool. He's going to demo it soon. I'm going to make a lot of noise about it because he's a humble guy, Obed. He's down in Lethbridge, which is just south of Calgary, small town. He's kind of quiet about the promotion of what he's building, but he wants the world to know about it. So I told him I'd help. I think that everyone in this room would find it fascinating. Honestly, workflow apps, when, they're more important to you guys with, Arrow and all these related tools, Carbon and stuff like that, because you're doing those routine tasks over and over again, and you have to make sure you stay on top of them.
Yeah.
That's not the way I roll. So those tools kind of bore me. Even my good friend Laura Redmond, her tool is super cool. And I watched the demo and I'm going, is this over yet? This one is
for those of
different.
us who use it, it bores us too.
It's a necessary evil though, because how else are you going to stay organized? Well, this one, it's almost like a workflow tool, but it's friendlier. I don't know what it is. It's like going to the spa, and even he had pastel-y colors in there. Not pastel. I could hear that, the pan flute in the background almost.
I have a question because we're on this topic of advisory, and there's so many different methods that we can provide advisory services. And I'm talking about like channels of communication while you're advising with your client. There's going to be, webinars, there's going to be text correspondence, there's going to be all sorts of different methods that you have to deliver training or advisory and advice. So are you using things like Slack, Teams, like what channels, like how are you guys actually communicating all of these advisory things with your clients?
I like Zoom. Zoom is the best. Zoom is so easy to use. I just love it. The more I use it, the more I love it. I resisted it for so long. Jeff Bourgeois suggested I get an account, and I resisted it. Now it's like, I don't even I don't even want to go to my client site anymore because it's so much easier to share a screen, have a conversation, and show them how to do stuff and talk about everything you need to talk about. And then the meeting's over, you're done. And they like it too.
So there's nothing in writing. That's where I'm getting at. There's no reference where your client can go back and be like, okay, there's my step-by-step. Those are my instructions. That was the advice.
I record all my conversations, so I give them the opportunity. They want to watch it again.
To rewatch.
Yeah, I guess that's an option.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. That's what we do in boot camp. So that way they can go through and watch stuff because you want them to pay attention, don't take notes. One other thing that we do with clients, if we're just having a verbal with them, depending on how detailed it is, but if we're having a verbal, I like to follow up with a confirmation of what we had with a quick email. So just to recap, here's this. And if it's something that has the same steps, I've probably already got that templated somewhere where I'm just sending them, here's a link to all of these steps,
I'm
to follow through.
to ditch email. Email is just not my jam. And I'm exploring other methods and channels right now.
Yeah, we would have it canned in there, so because we don't want to retype it more than once. So kind of canned in there with the link. We add a little bit of personalization, whatever, off it goes.
A lot of people are using Slack, right?
Yeah.
Slack. I just started trying Teams and Microsoft.
I'm trying. I haven't embraced Slack. I don't know. Everyone loves it, and for whatever reason, I miss stuff.
I found that a little bit
internally, but Seth David, I know you were there, Brad, this morning. I didn't realize it was live. I popped in to grab the link to email it to myself to watch it later, and then all of a sudden I see Brad going, "Hi, Todd." Yeah.
I see him every Friday. I seem to always have that time open, but it's got so many cool things about it potentially. But I don't know when I'm actually using it. I'm a part of like 5 different communities on Slack, and I miss messages all the time. And once I'm in there, I can't find things. I don't know. It just doesn't roll with me. I'm totally would love to find it.
Now, what is that one that is not available in Canada yet, but everybody down in the States loves it, especially Matthew and Linda, and they're using
Licio? Is it Licio? Licio?
Yes, I think that's it. Yeah.
Licio is an interesting one. It's a way more secure version of a Slack type messaging thing. It's a big alternative. It's a private sort of mail service.
Yeah.
But it's not mail, it's messaging. So your clients would have access to it, and all the communications that you have with them is super secure.
Yeah.
That's the big thing about that one.
Individual, right? So that they can go, you're only dealing with that client in this Yeah,
It doesn't go anywhere. There's no hacking possibilities. File transfers are really super easy because it's in this.
Is there an actual scheduling component though? Like, can you
Probably.
delegate tasks and schedules? Because that's what I'm looking more for.
I would imagine. I don't know if you guys
It's
have
not
ever.
available in Canada though, Bianca, yet.
Not yet, but I heard it is. But it's that concept of every all in one. And it's not cheap, but it's depends on what you value. And some clients don't want them. They don't even want emails. How many clients want texts now? And I don't want clients to text me because it's not really documented anywhere. And you have to go find it later. I like, the only reason I do like email still is that it's tied to my CRM. So if they send me an email, I can quickly find that message and it's in context. But otherwise, I'm the same way. I just have too many.
So what I use is Microsoft's SharePoint, right? And every time I have a conversation with a client, notes are made in there. And then I've got a correspondence folder in SharePoint that the client has access to, so that they can go back and look at anything.
Review the notes and everything.
And read the notes. But that's all I've come up with. But it's shareable, which is, I think,
that
the important part.
SharePoint is an add-on when you're using the Microsoft Teams. So that's why I'm finding that interesting. You can add a schedule, you can add SharePoint and all these things, and you can create a team for each of your clients, and then you can create schedules and like bucket lists within those clients. So that's sort of why I'm entertaining it. But I thought if any of you had.
I've heard Teams is good, and it's all part of the Microsoft thing, right? Everything.
It's included in the business essentials, so I'm going to try it.
My biggest problem with it is I've been trying to get away from Microsoft forever. They just lost my confidence a long time ago. And I like the fact there's alternatives. So I'm a Gmail, a G Suite guy, and everything ties to that. So that's the only reason I haven't really escalated the Microsoft side, because it's kind of like,
well, you must be able to do the same thing.
There must be a similar thing in G Suite. Yeah,
I'm sure you must be able to.
But they don't really have a Teams thing in Google. Right? Like nothing like that. Teams is really, it is a Slack alternative.
Yeah.
And because it's tied to everything else. So, and I've heard really great things about it. It'd be nice if it was a standalone item that you could just use instead of Slack. I'm not sure you can. It's probably part of the package.
You can copy and send invite links to certain documents or templates or schedules that you've created in Teams. So I haven't tried sending them to anyone externally without like a Gmail or whatever, different email hosts, but that's my next step. So we'll see.
It's funny, my experience from talking to clients, and we look at that because we thought about using Slack with some of our clients, but the minute that I do, it's almost like it's too much technology. That the clients are like, as much as they don't like their email, everybody has an email. They don't want to introduce some tool just to talk to us and communicate to us.
Well, they don't want to install it. They don't want to have to do it for your convenience. They view it as, well, you're doing it for your convenience, not mine. Why do I have to install an app on my phone? Why do I, it's one thing to say use Receipt Bank, because that's different. It's like, so many people I know, they basically tell their clients, if you don't use Receipt Bank or HubDoc or whatever it is you're using, we're not doing business. So it's non-negotiable. This is the way we do our account. But when you say, this is how you want us to talk to you, it's different. It's a different conversation. Then I get up. I get, I got Facebook Messenger. I've got email. I've got text. Why do I want to use Slack as well? That's the pushback.
Yeah. They just say not another app.
Yeah.
You know what I do use though is I use the ability to send emails directly through QBO to clients. So if I'm in there and I'm looking at their file, I will send them it right through QBO.
See, and we don't, because like Brad, I want everything in my CRM. So we use.
But it gets into the CRM, because if you can actually include. Well, there's what I find, you can actually take like some of those unique email addresses and put them into your client record. So every time that email goes out, so anytime I want to see a statement or an invoice or whatever has gone out to a client, I can go into their CRM and see when it went out.
But do the incoming emails go in there? They don't.
Incoming.
I received, so if my client replies to my message inside of QBO, I get an email for it.
Because you're CC'd on the message that goes out. That's the way Intuit does it. That's why it stays there. So I do get a record.
Right. But if your client just starts a brand new thread and emails you, it doesn't come into there. Because we use QBO Work, and I do a lot of the training for the states in Canada on the QBO Work. So yeah, that feature's there. But if somebody just, hey, I want this, starts a brand new email thread, it won't go into there. But whereas myself, I want it all in one for the CRM so that I can just see one picture. So that's what I don't use it. But yeah, it's a great idea to use. I wish they would have that. If they would have like a full CRM built into there, then that would be great.
Well, when you say an incoming email, you don't get it with a new thread. What does that mean?
Like if I just sat down and started a brand new email, went into my email, hit send to Brad. Hey, Brad, and I'm one of your clients. I'm like, hey, Brad, blah, 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 whatever. Here's my question. And I hit send. That's not like, it's just going to come into your email inbox. That won't come into.
This
you
is
have to
why
do it through QBO.
This is exactly why I love Pipedrive, because Pipedrive, you link it. It's not just Gmail. You can link it to your Microsoft email. So just earlier, a client just said, I need to give you a new credit card, and she sent me an email.
Right, but it won't come into your QBOA though with Pipedrive, though, will it? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, into QBOA. Like, where would you capture that anyways?
Well,
It's inside QBO.
And that's why I'm saying, like, that's why I don't use that to send messages. I would rather send messages from my CRM, which is 17 Hats, because whether I send a message, whether a brand new message comes in, whether I reply, that whole history of any email communication is all in one spot.
No, but in this case, like I sent out a sales receipt to the same customer on July 13th, and I know that, and I go in there. If she replies to that, I get the whole chain. So I think what Diane was saying, she's sending emails from QBO. There's certain things like statements and payment. So all that stuff goes into my.
I noticed that you still haven't done the bank rec from 2 months ago. Do you need some help?
Yeah, exactly.
That too.
Excuse me.
But it really is keeping everything in one place, and that's why I don't want to take text, because texts don't show up anywhere. Yeah. Facebook message. I have clients that Facebook message me all the time.
Me
and
too.
It's like,
even Instagram messaging.
Yeah, and that's why we
LinkedIn.
Tell them, or even clients that email us, we have them email a support email address. The worst thing I ever did was have clients, when I started out, was use my own email address, like one with, Tanya at, because I wasn't going to grow, and now there's 5 of us. So that for scalability, that completely buggered things up. So now I started telling clients 2 years ago, you need to email support, because what if I'm not here? What if, excuse me, sorry.
Don't use personal emails if you got.
Yeah, somebody else can respond to that. And so what I've started doing is I've actually got this draft reply that if somebody does on mine, we'll do a draft like an auto reply, or we'll just ignore it and then try to find a reason to call the client later that day, something else unrelated, and let them bring it up and say, oh, did you use that email address? We don't check those. I told you that. But now, because we've kind of put it off, and, again, we've given them a chance to bring it up so that we can address it, but it's kind of almost making it, oh, you mean you wouldn't have seen that? So kind of almost trying to help force them to, that's why we said use the support.
Well, that's what I think people are trying to do with Slack, is they're saying you have to use Slack or else we won't get back to you. I've heard people say that.
Wow.
And you kind of force them into it. I don't know if anyone met Deb Klinsheimer. Does anyone know Deb? Yep. Tanya.
I do.
She is all about my way or the highway. It's like, this is the way I do it. And if you don't like it, don't do business with me. And she has people lining up for her services. She's wildly successful. We shared a lot about her business, and she just blows me away. And it's all about, I'm doing it my way. So it's that fine line, right? Not everyone is going to take that approach. That's her personality style, and she's really good at it. But she told me that there was a time she was terrible at asking for what she wanted. It was actually, she was mentored by Michelle Long, and she found her mojo, and she went out and just kicked some butt. And by being that way and being confident, because they want to use your services for a reason, right? I've had clients come to me and I don't feel the fit, and I pawn them off somewhere else, and they're like, well, I didn't want to do business with them. I want to do business with you. That happens. You want people that they will listen to the way you're going to do it. So, you know, if you've got a process that works, and if it's Listio, I think this Listio tool looks really cool. And if you tell people this is the only way you can get in touch with me, and that's that, they will use it. They will definitely use it.
Yeah, we're in a more rural area, so we still have a lot of farmers.
Well, fair enough.
I
It comes
wish
back
I
to
were in a more
demographics.
urban
Yeah.
center. But yeah, so we still got a lot of the farmers, and I mean, they're great, but to get them on QBO and to get them to use email and stuff.
Do they have internet?
Some of them, I've got one of them that has to come in. We actually have a bi-weekly meeting, and I'm actually mentoring him through Futurepreneur Canada. And he is so far out of the country, and yeah, he has to come in because we spend literally out of our hour, we spend half of the time just, you know, trying to wait for the connection to lag. And we're working a lot on his QBO at this point. So I'm like, yeah, you just have to start coming in. So.
I have one client without internet. That's only one. He's the only guy that I have. He lives in this valley out in a rural area. The internet just doesn't get down there. He doesn't care. He says,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but
They always threaten to fire them. That often brings them into line. I have this thing where I give myself a Christmas present every year, and that's to fire the client that I was the most PETA for that year.
Right.
And all of my clients know that, and you should they do, they know it. And then you should see them, like, come the 1st of December, they're like, oh shit, let's hope it's not us this year.
Those gifts of wine.
So you literally send them a present as you're about to fire them?
Yeah, I
No,
do.
they bring her present.
Oh, that would be like The Godfather or something. It's like, oh, it's my time. You're playing Survivor or something.
No, I give myself a present because
Oh, okay.
I'm going to fire them.
Okay, I thought you were like, here you go. Here's your parting gift. Get out of here.
No. And the rest of them will wait. And of course, you know, as we all are, we're often invited to, you know, our clients' Christmas parties and stuff. So it's hilarious because I'll go to the Christmas party and then they think that if they've made it to the Christmas party, then it's not them this year. So then they'll start asking me, so who was it this year? Who was it?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Totally true. I can vouch for it. I've been there. I've seen how she works.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my
So
god.
they're all sending you stuff.
She gets showered with gifts in December.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That's what I mean, right? We create these brands and the customers want to deal with you. You want to be in that position where your clients don't want to deal with anyone else. Because
Right.
they're so happy with the work you provide them and the person you are and the fit, right? We all agree that you can't take every client.
Yeah.
It's foolish. We do that when we start, when we're desperate and we just trying to pay the bills or get established. But you have to hit a point where you say, look, I'm too good for this. I need to ditch a client.
Yeah.
My own sanity.
I had a client who just before I flew out to Edmonton or Vancouver for the Get Connects, one of them, I can't remember which one. And we were talking to him. He was one of the ones, he was on the list. I mean, I was pretty sure I was going to fire him anyway. We were constantly chasing after him. We couldn't get anything in. And then he knew that, you know, for our taxes, April 15th is when we needed everything in to have everything done by April 30th. He was a sole prop. So, you know, it was, you know, it would have gone over anyway. But so even regardless of the fact that he had this huge list of stuff that we had, you know, sent him questions on that he refused to find the time to answer. And he is a farmer too, by the way. You know, he's too busy farming. He can't answer all of these questions, you know, and for months we've been chasing him. He brought everything in April 28th. He then tried to pay, we've got a rush where you pay $25 on a personal return, $25 per return, and I'll put it on the top of my pile and I'll do it rush. Otherwise, it's 1 to 2 weeks turnaround. So we've trained them on that. He says, I want to pay $25. I'm like, first off, you can't. That's not available to you because you're a sole prop. You know, so you're disqualified for that. Secondly, we still have all of these questions that we've been chasing you for. So it's not going to get done on time. Now, he was getting refunds, but that's not besides the point. Couldn't tell him that. He actually got mad at me when I said, well, you know, we've sent you these lists. We've asked for this information. We can't do anything else. He actually yelled at me. Well, he raised his voice. He didn't yell, but that was enough for me. He raised his voice.
The conversation when they yell at you.
Don't you blame the client. I've had enough of this conversation. And he hung up on me. Not 10 seconds later, I started my firing email and I hit send. And, he actually emailed back and said that I was, I was hiding behind email. And I said, you were the one that chose to hang up on me. I said, from this point, I said, I'm leaving now. If you want to have a conversation, I'm available in between 10 p.m. and midnight your time because I'm busy all day with all of these functions. I said, I'm happy to have a conversation with you then, knowing he was going to be in bed anyway. But his wife came in, was sweet as pie when she picked everything up, but we finished everything we said we were going to finish. I have a proper disengagement of services flow. Here's what, what we do. But I thought, no, you don't raise your voice at me. Boom, done. And that was like the best thing. So I couldn't wait till Christmas to do that.
I had a prospect do that to me. He called me up and he was super hyper, super aggressive, very kind of arrogant. And I was asking questions and he just lost patience with me. And then he swore at me 15 minutes into this conversation. I thought it sounded like a good prospect potentially. And then he swore at me and was really rude. And I just said, conversation's over.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. I said, no, conversation is over. I said, I don't want to work with you, sir. And I didn't hang up. I just said, are you clear that this is over? He emailed me back, sweet as pie, because he needed my services. And I was like, doesn't matter, man. We're done. We can't work together.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no way that anyone should put up with that crap. And especially you guys with your deadlines, people are going to get impatient, but it's not your fault as a service provider. Well, how's that saying go? Your lack of preparation does not constitute an emergency.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And I love that. It's like, well, you know what?
Well,
and even the $25 thing, it's like, yeah, that's okay. But then that can create bad habits on their end. They're like,
yeah, but it gives them a 3-day. It gives them a 3 days, $24 or $25 is a 3-day turnaround from the time they get everything to us. If it's not complete, their 3 days pauses while we wait for them to get back with the information.
Okay.
3 days on my desk. But we've had that for several years. We tell them if it's not by the 15th. And, $25, when you look at the fact that I'm charging, let's say on average about $100 for a personal return, that's 25% surcharge. So some of them are like, that's a lot. Well, then don't wait, because guess what?
Exactly.
The 30th falls at the same time every year, and the 15th is the same cutoff time I've had every year. So you can either have it done for free without paying that surcharge by getting it to me before the 15th. You can pay the $25 to have it done in time, or you can just wait and deal with it yourself.
Life's too short for bitchy clients, though.
It is. It really is.
If I wanted to put up with that, I'd get a job.
Exactly.
That's what you did when people are always unhappy. There's always drama and excitement and everything. That's why we don't work in corporate space. So I don't need that. We don't need the drama. So no one should ever put up with that.
Well, our tax clients, we've got our list of the tax people, and anybody who comes in that gives us any amount of headache, that's exactly what we do. We highlight them red for the next year, and they get a letter saying, unfortunately, we're no longer able to accommodate you. Here's some names out of the yellow pages, which is usually H&R Block, and you may want to give them a try.
That's the hard part, is we can't even refer them to people in our circles.
Yeah, you don't want to.
I wouldn't want to.
They're reciprocating.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
So no, I referred one person that I fired onto somebody in our circle, and it was a very different situation because he did not have the same respect for women that he did for men. So I referred him on to Sean Duffy and Brian Clare out of Ottawa, Blueprint, because I thought, he's technology friendly. And I said, with him, I talked to them about it ahead of time. I said, I'm firing. This is why. I said, I strongly believe that with a man, you guys, if you ever hire any women, do not let him talk to them, because he is not going to respect them. I said, and they needed clients. And it turns out they've actually been a really good fit. They've had him since February, and he's been a great fit. I said, do not give him an inch. I said, you be very clear with your expectations, stick to it. And Sean didn't listen to me one day. He sent an email out at like 6:05 p.m. or something. He gets an email back from the client saying, yep, I'm available for a phone call right now. I'm like, I told you, do not give him an inch. Be very clear with the expectations. But since that, they've done that, and they've actually been a really good fit. But that's the only time I've done that. Otherwise, But I was very clear as to why I was firing him. He wouldn't get, he wouldn't get what's like ornery or like whatever with me, but he had a problem with the girls. So next thing you know, the girls were upset. I had to get involved, and I guess he's afraid of me, but not afraid of them for whatever reason. But I back them up for everything that they say, whether it's right or not. We deal with that on our own afterwards. I back them up. So it was just ridiculous. And I just said I can't handhold him, so he needs to go to an all-male firm.
I let somebody go that I was gonna sign up, but he was just too many red flags. So I contacted someone in Calgary here that's in our community and said, look, here's why I don't want to deal with this guy. And I thought he would be a better fit for her because the things he wanted, she was very capable of delivering, but he also wanted some bookkeeping and stuff too. So I'm like, I'm not going to do half of it and then give it to a bookkeeper. The bookkeeper can do it all and, put a little money in her jeans. I said, he's a bit needy. I kind of told her that. Sure enough, she just said, no, I can't deal with him. And I guess the whole time he dealt with her, he was complaining that I let him go and why. It's just like, oh man, can't you get it through your head? You're just high maintenance here, dude.
Common denominator.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny one of the questionnaires that I send out, so like Leanna and Suzanne will know this, the questionnaires that I send out, excuse me, asks like who's their current bookkeeper. They don't have to tell us or not, but I like to ask who. But I'm like, why are you looking for a new bookkeeper? And a lot of them, and I'm like, yeah, we've gone through 3 bookkeepers in the last year. I'm like, red flag, nope.
I have a client like that. She goes through an accountant a year, and I was one of them. And her team told me I was by far the best they'd ever had. So when it didn't work out, they were pretty pissed. Here she is a year later, and she's back in touch. And I'm like, no, I'm not even offering her. I'm doing very little work for her. And no, it's not
double the cost, right?
Well, my rate has increased significantly since we last did work. I've done a few increases in the last year and a half. And if somebody doesn't have an agreement in place with me and they just pick up the phone and call me, I don't even tell them I've raised my rates. It just is on the bill, and I have their credit card on file.
Right.
I don't take any work until somebody signs their credit card authorization form. And in cases where I've had former clients come back and get work from me, I don't tell them what my new rate is. I don't have an agreement in place with them. So I can charge them $200 an hour. It doesn't matter. If they don't ask, I'm not doing anything wrong by just sending them the bill, and I get paid instantly because their credit card's there. So
especially if it's it's like just a quick question thing, right? You hear from them 3 times a year, and it's just a quick question each time. So
the quick question turned into 2 hours. So
Exactly.
but
they should be paying premium is the point, because they're not they're not under a contract.
Yeah.
Like quick question.
If somebody's under agreement 1 year, that's it. It says right in my agreement that this fee is in effect for the next year, and it's subject to change beyond the agreement.
Yeah.
So.
How about you, Jessica?
Has she been quiet too?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yes.
Just listening.
You're usually right in there, and I do spy on this little Friday talk. I haven't participated, but I listen. I put a lot of these Facebook Lives in the background, and I work and I listen to the conversations, like Seth this morning. That's what I did with him.
Jessica has the same tree mural that you have, Mums.
I know, eh? I said that to her the very first time we were on together. Where did you get that? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, but I think, Jessica, we talked about the other week, you've got a disengagement process as well too, don't you?
Oh, yes. And I don't do disengagements as a Christmas gift to myself, but I do them as needed. So if somebody's PITA, I am not waiting. I learned that lesson the hard way with one client that it reached a point, it was giving me nightmares. And I kept postponing disengaging because I was just waiting for the replacement. And then one night, I had a dream that he showed up at my house and started yelling at me. He's a local client, but 100% virtual. And I was like, nope. Next day, I let them go, and it was such a relief. I mean, I slept like a baby for the next week. And I guess that tension had been presented when I was dealing with prospects, because suddenly my close rate went through the roof. So that worry about, I have to have a replacement in place, No big deal. I
It
had
happens.
3 clients taking his place in less than a month.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
start having nightmares about your clients, and
Yeah, don't.
that doesn't happen often to me, but it had this lady that I just mentioned that's back. That was the same way. I did not sleep. I would wake up or I'd sort of sleep, and you were thinking of work and that particular client.
Yeah, don't misunderstand me. I would never have a client like that for any longer than 5 seconds.
So you
I
do
actually,
both.
like, these are clients that probably are not bad clients, but maybe they complained about my bill once, or maybe they were late once. This is not any really big thing, but it's just, that way I get to turn over clients and, fresh stuff, and I don't have to deal with the negativity.
And you know what, though? If they know about it, I think that's really smart.
It is.
Because if they know about it, then they're going to purposely and consciously try to not be your worst client that year.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't keep it a secret. They all know.
I think that's
That is a really good plan.
Not surprised.
I started to rank my clients between A, B, and C, and I only have one C client, and I just look at that file like December is it. I am getting her through the end of the year unless she goes through some magical transformation and suddenly becomes a pleasure to deal with. It's not that she's mean or anything. It's the only person I wasn't able to close the June books because I am still waiting on documentation from her.
Exactly. Right. So she would be
it's just disrupting my workflow. She pays her bills. It's just that, she could be better.
Not a good fit.
When did it disengage?
If things don't improve by December, then I just say have a nice life. If she does improve, then we'll carry on.
So then if you're giving her to December, you're doing Diane and giving yourself a Christmas gift.
I guess you can say so, yes. Maybe I'll start doing it on a yearly basis. I've made a lot of changes in the past year, and it was that one client that made me document that disengagement workflow. I actually have it set up in 17 hats, so I kind of just click start workflow, and it automatically fills in the email with all the information. I love it.
Yep.
How much time do you give your client when you do decide to disengage?
It depends on why I am disengaging them. My agreement says 14 days notice unless they broke a term in the agreement. So if they're not paying, or if they are trying to do something illegal or anything like that, it's without notice, effective immediately. But if it's just, I am planning to move on, I don't have the capacity for you anymore, I try to finish the current period and then send them on their way.
See, and I'm similar to Jessica. I've got 10 days is written in my agreement, 10 days notice either side. But then again, if we're doing something and it's just, again, same thing, I'll finish out that month and I'll give them more notice. Absolutely. But the minimum I would do is 10 days.
I got to look at my clause. I think mine just says subject to notice. I don't think I even have a time frame. And I think it's just in those cases where it's like, it's apparent. It's kind of like if you're dating somebody and it's just not working out, do you wait 2 weeks until you break up with them? Or you just have the opportunity to say, look, this isn't working out. Let's call it quits. I like to reserve that right.
You just have this thing where you want to leave it where the next bookkeeper is going to understand.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you're only working on a client quarterly or monthly, it's like you kind of got to really think ahead.
Yeah.
Pre-plan your...
See, and that's it. We don't work with, I just had this conversation with email conversation with somebody the other day, and she was emailing me, and she's like, because she saw the value pricing template, and she's emailing me. She's a boot camper as well, but she's like, I don't understand. She says, wouldn't it cost more? And I said, yeah, I don't do quarterly clients anymore. You're monthly. And she's like, but doesn't it cost more? And I said, well, I guess if you want to look at it that way, but from the flip side, I said, they're disrupting my monthly flow. My monthly flow is when everything comes in. It's just like, so I look at quarterly clients like backup work. So they should be charged more for coming in, because now if I've got, my staffing hours, everything is on a perfect flow, like HST buggers it up, or like a quarterly GST buggers it up as it is. But then to try and bring clients in that are doing that, I don't have to pay overtime or work extra hours. So I don't even offer that. And I treat that like backup work.
But advisory, like I'm not talking like quarterly.
Oh, you're just talking advisory. Okay.
You're just advising on a quarterly or even year-end basis before, it goes off to an accountant. It's like, you kind of got to really plan those disengagements way in advance.
I don't know if it's advisory. I would think that you could do that at a thing. Yeah. I guess it depends. I guess it depends on what your, what you're actually doing with them on the advisory side.
That's true, because compliance is sometimes a part of advisory, and compliance does have to do with, you know, getting final numbers and those kinds of things. So, but
and that's exactly where we kind of give them, again, try to work to the end of the month, or again, somewhere where somebody could easily take up, because, you know, if somebody else wants to pick up, I don't want for, even if that person is going to badmouth me because I fired them, which we know they're probably going to say more than the truth because they're ticked that they've been fired, but I want for at least a new bookkeeper to go in and not find any messes or not find anything that they could easily go in and pick up. Then they'll probably think, well, maybe it wasn't Tanya, maybe it was him or her.
never.
So,
never the client's fault.
Yeah.
Always the client's fault most of the time.
The customer's never right.
Well, it's funny. I started in customer service, and it was always the customer is always right.
Yeah.
The customer is always right. And I put up with a lot. You know, I went from insurance is where I started, and everybody hates insurance. Insurance is always going up. And so I used to get people that get really frustrated and swear, but I understood it wasn't me. I'd give them a minute to vent. I'd be like, okay, like, let's, you know, calm down. It's not necessary. I understand your frustration, but let's get it solved. So I went from there to taxes. And then of course everybody hates taxes too, but that was at least me, my own stuff. I cross-referenced that, I guess, while I was building everything. I worked for TELUS part-time. Everybody hates their cell phones too. So yes, I went to that. So to finally get myself, it was Ron Baker who actually got me really in the mindset that I didn't have to take it. That, you know, the customer was not always right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's really only been in the last 5 years. And that was a huge mind shift for me.
I was taught that my very first job was at Safeway, so a grocery store. I worked there for 10 years. I was just before I turned 16. And they tell you that. Do not ever engage the customer. Let them vent, et cetera, et cetera. My first week on the job, there's this lady who wanted this turkey put in this tiny little bag. And the bags kept blowing up. And she finally just lit it up and totally ripped on me. And I just sat there taking it like I was told. Finally, the assistant manager comes out and says, Gertie, we told you. You can't do this. This is it. You're banned from here. If you're ever back, I'm phoning the police. You are permanently barred from here. And I just got, okay, I got through that. But it helped because people they get really nasty when they want something done in a grocery store. I can't believe how mean some of the people would get. There were really amazing people. And a lot of the customer service skills I picked up is because I was constantly around people. I worked with a lot of people my age as well, but every once in a while there was Mrs. Myers. She used to always want the newest milk that we had right off the truck, and she would push her way into the dairy cooler, which you had to push all the stuff aside looking for the freshest stuff. And I caught her coming in, and she's got a nastiness to her. And I saw her coming in, and that was it. I just pushed it back and almost crushed her and said, get out of here, Myers. And right away she went run into the manager and everything. And it was right at my quitting time. I thought, I'm not sticking around for this. So I left. And the manager called me at home and goes, Brad, what happened? And I said, I tell you, I put up with too much hair crap. I have for years. Literally, that was, she crossed the line. He goes, I know, but to crush her, push her out of the way. And she's really pissed. I said, yeah, whatever. I get that. And I apologize, but yeah, she's done. He goes, I know. I just wanted to get your side of the story. But you know, jobs like that in our background actually helps us because it's still important that we maintain a level head. Yeah. But at the same time, the great thing about owning a business is we decide who we do business with. And if someone's going to be rude to you and disrespect you, you have a right to say, look, this isn't working out. You're gone. So they're not right in that situation. If they are violating your standards and you're doing everything you can to accommodate and it's still not good enough, you have every right to say, screw you. You are not right.
Well, you know, I had a client once when it was Leanne and myself, and they just didn't like Leanne. I don't know why. There's just something they just didn't like Leanne. They just wanted to talk to me for whatever reason. And she called and she says, you know what? She says, I don't want to talk to Leanne. And I said, well, this is what Leanne's job does. I've trained her. She does this properly. I have every faith, just how you hire employees and you have faith in them. You can't do everything. I said, it's the same thing here. So you need to trust that I've trained her. You know, I'm checking on the work, but you need to trust that. She says, nope. She says, you know what? She says, we deal with you or, you know, nothing. And I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. You know, we'll finish at the end of this month. She's like, what? What? I said, yep, I'll send the disengagement process. You know, I'll have it off to you in about 5 minutes.
That's awesome. You stood behind Leanne, because that you have to do that. They're your team and you believe in them. They can't tell, you know, that's just unacceptable.
And it was no reason other than I think a little bit of a personality thing, because Leanne is a little more blunt at times, you know, than I can be. Because I guess of my background and whatever, you know, sometimes maybe clients think they can get a little more with me or maybe they're not. So there's just differences, little slight differences in our, I guess, like the way we talk or our word choices. But, you know, I think it was a little bit of that and a little bit of, you know, they just wanted to keep dealing with you. Well, we signed up to deal with you. Well, great. My team grew.
She works for me.
Well, that's exactly it. I said, she's trained. I've trained her. She does everything everything the same that I would do. There's nothing different. But some people just keep doing that. And I just said, no, don't you give me an ultimatum. This is my business. I give you an ultimatum.
Yeah. That's important. I think everyone has to remember that. Don't be afraid to say goodbye. I do know a lot of people that won't do it. They fret about it, and then it stresses them out, and they fret about it, and it's not even financial. Sometimes people will say, well, I can't afford to give them up. But I've heard I asked the question, can you afford to be without them? Yeah, but I don't want to be that person. It's like, well, you better, because your business is going to struggle.
Personal boundaries in your life. You're creating those boundaries personally for your own health and your own well-being, and getting rid of toxicity, no matter where, if it's business or personal, is everyone should make more.
Bingo.
Absolutely.
Toxicity. That's the word that 2019 was the year I said, toxicity leaves my life. And I've been quietly dealing with that, because no one should. Yeah. We should never deal with stuff that drags us down, and we're all going to be affected differently by different, but it's important that we get rid of it, because it just slows you down.
It's a huge relief, you know, once you do it, and it's so scary to do it.
Exactly.
I remember this, you know, one of my last clients that I actually had to go to, and it was like black ice and whatever. And I said, no, I'm not coming today. I'm not going to drive like all the way over there. And I was saying it nicely. I just said, you know, it's black ice, you know. Well, it's not over here. Oh, really? Well, so I waited a little bit, and I was just, every month I was wanting to say, I'm not coming back. So I went that day, and I arrived, you know, a couple of hours later. The first thing, and, you know, I was giving her the benefit of the doubt, this negative person, and she said, see, it wasn't so bad. Whoa.
Yeah, I'm alive. Yeah,
thanks for putting my life at risk. And Jessica's going, what is black ice? You're from the South, right, Jessica?
Yeah, I
Florida?
And I do. This is one of the reasons why I live in Florida. Because I just wouldn't drive.
Don't like black ice.
Really half of the year, but I have experienced black ice in my travels, so I know exactly what she's talking about. And I put my life on the line for a client. I have babies at home. I want to come back to them.
Right.
Yeah. So I had with me a resume of another bookkeeper I had, you know, I communicated with. And when she said that, I said, yep. And this is my last time here. So I said, she goes, you're leaving? Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm not coming back.
It's liberating.
You're going to finish the year in? Well, I said, I'm here. I might as well. That was it.
Yeah.
Never went back. I'm so happy.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
I was going to say, we're 4:36, so we're over.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Well, thanks for having me, Tanya. That was a lot of fun. See you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Long weekend up here in Canada. Yay.
Yeah.
Don't forget, even though it's a long weekend, Monday is the financial Rondell and Corlick. If you can't make it, make sure you're registered.
Oh, you're thinking with Rondell's on Monday? Oh, yeah, that's right. What time again? Sorry
2 p.m. your time, 4 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, 4
p.m. All right.
Register. Take care, everyone. Recording link. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks so much, Brad.